Hi and welcome to Epileptics 1. Today we're going to be talking about absence epilepsy and temporal lobe epilepsy. Now, just as there are as many different types of epileptic seizures, there is just as many different types of epilepsy syndrome. Each epilepsy syndrome has its own specific set of symptoms, but each epilepsy syndrome can sometimes have the same set of symptoms. Epilepsy syndromes can be named either by where they are situated in the brain, or by the types of seizures they cause, or by the set of symptoms that occur with them. There are hundreds of types of epilepsy syndromes. Some of them are very rare, but some of them are quite common. Most epilepsy syndromes occur in infants and children, but some epilepsy syndromes occur in adults and old age. Right, so we've discovered what epilepsy syndromes are, etc. We've got our two types of epilepsy: absence epilepsy and temporal lobe epilepsy, TLC. I'm going to start off with absence epilepsy. Absence epilepsy is quite common, but it's quite a small bit that I'm just going to cover, because there's not really that much that you can talk about with it. But basically, absence epilepsy is where the epileptic stares into space. They're unconscious, but they will seem like they're awake. Their seizures are called petit mal, which translates to little sickness. Absence seizures normally last up to 30 seconds. Sometimes they can last more, but mainly they are 30 seconds long. Absence epilepsy can be treated with medication, so AEDs, which are anti-epileptic drugs. Unfortunately, I haven't got any information on what main anti-epileptic drugs are used for that particular type of epilepsy, but they can do pretty much anything if it's under control. But if it's not, they can suffer from 50 to 100 absence seizures a day and sometimes not even notice. But just think, what happens if they were in the middle of something, in the middle of a conversation, in the middle of a class at school, in the middle of a meeting at work, or in the middle of court, and they suffered an absence seizure. It could come across as they just weren't listening. And some people will just think, oh, you're just not listening, being rude. But they're not. They're actually having what of that type is their epileptic seizure. Now, some of them don't just stare into space. Others, their bodies can go all rigid, and they can go like funny shapes, like their bodies can like turn in on themselves, like their muscles will do funny things. So then you'll know that they're probably having a seizure then. But if it's under control, they can drive, but they have to have a year or two fit free. They can go clubbing. It is not light affected, okay? They can do many things. Now, the other epilepsy we're discussing is TLC, which is temporal lobe epilepsy, which is to do with the temporal lobe, which is situated there. Now, the temporal lobe is responsible for processing and thought. Now, for the thought, it is whether you express something or stay silent. Now, temporal lobe epilepsy is about the most common cause of partial seizures. Now the best way for partial seizures are really, I would say, sometimes full body jerks, but they can seem awake, so they're semi-conscious, but they're not at the same time, because their eyes will seem glazed over. They will not be responsive. Some people won't be responsive. And also the temporal lobe seizures can also be most common for temporal lobe epilepsy is most common for aurora. We'll go into that another time. It's a different type of seizure. Repeated temporal lobe seizures can cause damage to the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain that is important for memory. So, and this is the same for any type of epilepsy. Repeated seizures can damage the brain. Repeated seizures can damage any part of the body, because it is movement. It is mad. What I would say, mad movement. I don't know why I would call it that. It is unusual movement for the muscles, because they're spasming. So you could damage them. The skeleton structure, because you could fall and break something, and the brain, because repeated seizures, you're going to get brain damage. That's why it's imperative for epileptics to take their medication. That's why I'm saying, for the people that are harsh towards epileptics, don't laugh at them and don't take the piss. Because that's why some epileptics don't take their medication. Because sometimes they just think, why should I bother? I might as well just die, So, temporal lobe epilepsy is to do with temporal lobe. It can cause partial seizures, and it can cause grand mal seizures, which are also known as tonic-clonic seizures, which are actually full-blown seizures where your whole body is shaking. With this type of epilepsy, it can be controlled by medication again, but you have to have the same amount of for years to be able to drive. It's not caused by flashing lights. If anything, it's probably caused by smell. Nothing is actually too. No one's too sure on what causes temporal lobe epilepsy. So there's some epilepsies that no one's sure on what the cause is. So we'll come back to that.